For watching this video, you probably spent the majority of this year trying to get rich. But here you are, barely paying your bills, and it's the end of the year. The good news is that you're not alone. There are plenty of people who set up gigantic financial goals but haven't achieved them, just like you. The bad news is that your next year most likely won't be different from this year. I don't want to be pessimistic, but if you take a look at the numbers, you will find out that 23% of people quit their New Year resolutions in the first week of the year. 41% of those people quit by the end of the January, and only 9% of people actually end up achieving their New Year resolutions. When I saw these numbers, I was absolutely shocked because how is it possible that just 9% of people actually end up achieving their goals? And that happens for many reasons. But one of the reasons is that when they write down their New Year resolutions, like, I want to get rich, I want to do this and that, and then in the first week of the year, when they take a day off from their plan, what happens is that they just forget about them because they're thinking that, why should I rush? I still have an entire year to achieve them. When they set up their financial goals, they often set up like huge, ambitious, fake goals, like, I want to make millions of dollars. I mean, what does that exactly mean? When your brain sees an overly ambitious fake goal that it doesn't know exactly how to tackle, where to start, and how to achieve it, it will automatically try to avoid it. And that's one of the main reasons why people often procrastinate. The best way to actually trick your brain and stop procrastinating is to set up small goals that you can actually achieve within a day or maybe within a week. Even if it's a big goal that will take you literally a year to achieve it, break it down into little pieces. Break it down into daily activities that you can achieve within a day or maybe within a week. So instead of telling yourself that I want to read like 12 books this year, set up a different goal. A small goal where I will read 5 pages a day. It will literally take you maybe 10 to 15 minutes, which is super easy to do. You can do it before you go to bed. You can do it the moment you wake up. I mean, it's easy to find 15 minutes a day to read a book. And within a month, that will be what? 150 pages? That's literally a book. So next year, at the end of the year, when you will be looking at what you have achieved this year, you will see that you actually have read 12 books a year. Or if your goal is to learn how to invest in the stock market or trade stocks, instead of telling yourself that this year I will learn how to trade stocks or invest in the stock market, set up a different goal. Make it that you will spend 30 minutes a day learning about the stock market, analyzing stocks, finding out through books or seminars or courses how the stock market works. Yes, 30 minutes isn't going to turn you into a professional investor, but if you add it up, that will be 15 hours a month. I mean, with 15 hours, you can literally learn the basics of the stock market. You have to understand a very simple fact. People don't randomly wake up one morning and they're financially free. I mean, unless your parents will tell you, listen, son, we've been pretending to be poor all of this time and you have passed the test. So here's a small loan of $1 million. Go and have fun. If that's not the case, you will have to work. You will have to come up with a plan on how you're going to get to financial freedom. Without a practical plan right in front of you that will work in your case, you won't be financially free. You will automatically be one of those people in the 91% of people who never achieve their New Year resolutions. Evaluate yourself appropriately. Don't assume that you're Elon Musk who can work 100 hours a week. I mean, let's be honest. You know your strength, you know your weaknesses, you know what you're capable of. Set up a practical plan that can get you to financial freedom and stick to it. The biggest mistake that people often make is that they think that they should start investing when they make a certain amount of money. And as someone who is investing for years already, I can tell you for a fact that the amount that you're starting really makes a difference. I mean, if you're getting 10% on $1,000, that's $100. But if you're getting 10% on $100,000, that's $10,000. I mean, that's enough money to pay some bills at least. And if you're making 10% on $1 million, that's enough money to retire. However, that's not the biggest difference. The real difference happens is when you take a look at what happens over a long period of time. Because of the power of compound interest, the difference over the long run will be massive. So I understand why people want to start investing when they make an X amount of money. However, what happens in practice all the time is that people just don't know how to save money. even when they make a certain amount of money, even when they get promoted and they will make twice the amount that they used to before. What happens basically is that the cost of their lives will just increase. They will find a way to waste that money, to spend it somewhere and not save it, which means they just never start investing. That's why it's extremely important to start investing as early as possible. I mean, you don't have to start with thousands of dollars. You don't have to start with 20, 100 or $500,000. I mean, start with $100. Don't invest it in a risky asset where you can easily lose it. I mean, buy something that is stable, such as the S&P 500. You know that the value of that stock isn't going to fall overnight. Of course, that $100 investment in the S&P 500 isn't going to make you rich, but it will help you to build that discipline to actually start investing. And the earlier you invest, the more you will benefit from the compound interest over time. So start investing as early as possible. John D. Rockefeller was the richest American who has ever lived. If we adjust his net worth to today's money, his net worth would be $400 billion at least. He built this net worth by building oil refineries across the United States. I mean, he easily drove his competitors to bankruptcy in order to buy them until he had a monopoly over the entire industry, which is why the Congress stepped in and broke down his business. But when he was building his empire, he faced an extremely serious problem. He realized that there aren't enough workers to work in his refineries. That's when he came up with a genius plan to solve that problem. He opened schools across the United States where he provided for free standardized public education to children where he determined the curriculum. His goal with this project was to create an entire generation of obedient workers. You don't want smart people working in your factories because tomorrow they can just demand higher wages. You want dumb people who can be easily trained to do repetitive jobs. As Rockefeller himself said, I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers. Because thinkers aren't going to waste their time trying to make you rich like these obedient workers. Guess what happened next? All other rich people in the country loved the idea because all the wealthy people needed obedient workers in their factories, which is why all of them started funding this project. This philosophy was even reflected in the school's mission statement. We shall not attempt to mold these individuals or their children into philosophers, scholars, or scientists. Our goal is simple yet beautiful, to train these individuals as we find them for an ideally fulfilling life right where they are. Even the government at this point absolutely loved this idea, so it made it mandatory for kids to go to school and made it into a national project. This is how schools used to look like 100 years ago, and this is how they look today. Guess what changed? Absolutely nothing. Even the state mission of these schools haven't really changed. The point isn't to blame your school for your failure, but I want you to understand a very simple fact. This is how these schools were born, and their mission is very different from what you want. So if your goal is to become rich, if your goal is to become financially independent, you have to understand that you cannot just rely on your school. You cannot rely on your university to prepare you for that. You have to create your own path because that's your only way to financial freedom. When I started my journey to financial freedom, I started reading books, I started going to seminars, I started to understand the rules of money, how the stock market works, how rich people make so much money. And one of the things that stood out was that millionaires on average have 7 streams of income. They have money coming from their business. They have properties all across the country that generate rental income. Then they have their investment portfolio. They are receiving dividend payments. Then they have smaller sources of income, such as money that is coming from their side hustle, venture capital, whatever. Honestly, back then, all of this seemed extremely confusing to me because my only source of income was my job. So creating 7 streams of income for me seemed really impossible. I'm spending most of my time in my job. How am I supposed to find time to create a second or a third source of income? And I need money to buy real estate, stocks, and everything else to create all of these sources of income. And no one was willing to give me a small loan of $1 million with 0% interest to buy all of those properties. And if your main source of income is your job, then you are in the same position that I was back then. I can tell you from my personal experience, that's really bad advice to create 7 sources of income. I mean, if you're making a lot of money, then that's not a problem. Instead of wasting your money on luxury stuff that you don't need to impress people you don't even know, it's better to buy real estate. It's better to buy stocks. It's better to buy assets that will generate income. However, most of you watching this video aren't even making like $100,000. And if you're not making like more than $300,000, then we can't really talk about buying multiple properties across the country and building a huge portfolio that will generate you enough money to actually just retire. So what is the solution? You see, there are stages of making money. If your only source of income is your job and you have certain skills, then it's better just to get the maximum out of those skills. And if you don't have a job, then start a project, start a business. Make sure that you actually create one source of income that will generate you at least 6 figures. And then you can think about creating multiple sources of income. When you start making 5 or 10 times more money than you spend, that's when you can actually relax and chill and think about creating 3rd, 4th, or 5th source of income where you can buy businesses, where you can actually invest in properties. That doesn't mean that you should not start investing at all before that time, because it's better to start as early as possible because of the power of compound interest. But you have to understand that if you're starting with small amounts, if you're starting with a few $100s or a few $1,000s, then you cannot assume that these investments will actually earn you enough money to pay any of those bills. Yes, in the long run, you will be able to build a portfolio that will pay the bills. But that's not happening in the short run. That's not happening in the next few months. That is not even happening this year or next year. So the best thing that you can do right now is focus on 1 or 2 sources of income that can get you maximum amount of money. Let me tell you the number 1 reason why 91% of people don't achieve their New Year resolutions, while 9% of people do. You see, when you open your Instagram, you see all of those influencers. What they do is that they show you their luxury cars, how they fly private, and they're surrounded by the supermodels. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but that's not how rich people live their lives. I mean, if you actually take a look at the life of every single rich person, you will find out that they have pretty boring lives. I'm not saying that they don't spend money to have fun sometimes, but often what they do is that they have a boring routine where they wake up at the same time every single day, just do the exact same things every single day for years until they build that business that generates them all of that money. This is Jeff Bezos. Guess what car he's driving? Yes, he's driving a Honda. Look at his office. It doesn't look like a $10 million office. And guess what? Right at that moment when this video was shot, his net worth was over $10 billion. And yet he's still going to that office and driving Honda. Why? Because at that point, the foundation of his business was not strong enough yet. So he spent the next 20 years building that business, growing that business so that he can sell it for hundreds of billions of dollars. And guess what? Even today, when he's one of the richest people on the face of the earth, he's not like chilling on the beach with supermodels. What he does is that he's building another company. He's building spacecraft in order to compete with Elon Musk to send people to Mars, to the moon, or whatever. That's how a truly rich person lives. And this is one of the richest people on the face of the earth. The average millionaire lives a super boring life where he's just growing a business every single day. Bezos is 59 years old, and even if he spends like $100 million every single month, guess what? He won't be able to spend all of that money by the end of his life. But instead, he chooses for himself a boring and yet effective routine, which is exactly what you need in your life. That's exactly what you should be doing next year if you want to achieve your goals. So, set up a routine that works for you and follow it religiously. And that's how you will achieve your goals next year. If you have found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Thanks guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.